So I'm going to be sharing a few things. First of all, HG Tudor is like this, maybe 5 years ago I was learning about it, is like this account on YouTube about narcissism and empaths. And so just to realize that it's not so simple, for example, someone could say that everyone sort of has a narcissistic side of them. In Jungian psychology, you have to heal your narcissism through individuating. Like, you have a self, then you don't have to constantly feel empty or self-centered. You can actually feel a sense of true self even when your actions are criticized or somebody doesn't like you or you're rejected. Instead of taking it so personally, like every little thing affects the real you, you have a sense of self that is much more resilient and comfortable. So three types of narcissism. There's a lesser narcissist, a mid-range, and a greater narcissist. Not greater like better, but like more, a greater qualitatively speaking or quantitatively speaking narcissist. There's narcissist, there's narcissistic, there's normal, there's empathetic, and then there's empath. And that's like a spectrum. So we have four types of empaths. There's the super empath, the standard empath, the codependent empath, and the contagion empath. And there's three types of empathy. There's emotional empathy, feeling how to respond; cognitive empathy, knowing how to respond, like it could be like a fake kind of empathy, like knowing what comes across and makes the other feel better rather than actually feeling to make them feel better. And then a contagion empathy, which is like stronger, visceral, spiritual, energetic. It's like comes in through you. Narcissistic people have emotional empathy, but it gets buried during triggered moments like pride. And narcissists have no emotional empathy, but their mid-range and greater can have cognitive empathy. So only greater is aware that she or he is actually a narcissist. And I'm going to share some narcissistic behaviors that feel relevant from having dealt with or being trained by them. First of all, punctuality issues, tardiness. This is like, punctuality is called the politeness of kings. Then flattery or over-texting after a date. Asking, are you there? If there's no response, asking like, hello. Lack of accountability and entitlement, not seeing a problem in the behavior. Quick rebounds. Oversharing about or blasphemizing or like previous partners. Mirroring others. Lots of talking about the self. Vague family issues, hinting at ostracization. Masking superficial knowledge with deflection. Painting someone black or white, totally black, smearing them. Pity playing, blame shifting, contrition when confronted. Infatuation, which is not love. And finally, remorse motivated by manipulation versus growth. So there's like an ulterior motive. What do I get out of it? And I'll share now about Kabbalah. So Kabbalah is about receiving in order for us to release either the empty or hurt kind of inner being that doesn't feel capable without some kind of hijacking someone or getting energy through being somebody that is like part of an arrangement rather than just being. So partzufim are like countenances. These are like not masks, but actually appearances. So nukva is the feminine, like the mother, the daughter. So your anpin's like the masculine, like the son. Then you have the abba, which is the father, masculine, and ima, which is mother, feminine. So ima, which is the intellect kind of level, there's specifically the bina, is the full development of the insight of chachma. Chachma is like from the abba. And you have zer anpin is the emotions function best when intellectually like when the composition that gives rise to them is still present in them in some way. Otherwise, without a tie, the emotions quickly derail and divert by the animal soul to its own concerns. The yesod of ima, or like the mother element, and we have all these. The mother element, the yesod, which is like foundation, secret, creativity, abundance, is is the drive within the intellect to actualize itself. It's present in emotional consciousness as far as the upper third of the Tiferet. Like, upper third of the Tiferet is like the primary emotions of Chesed and Gevura are like restriction, contraction, and expansion, growth. And an intellectual upper aspect, the third of Tiferet, because within the emotions own, there's a triangle of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, or like intellect, application, and then, becoming one with it. Like, so there's these like threes, they come in threes. And from that point on, like in the upper third, if they're like still related to the mental, to the intellectual capacity, and not yet sort of becoming on a life in their own. I mean, if that, from that point on, like in the lower third, if they start to have their kind of the life of their own, the Yesod of Ima is the lower third. Like there's the upper third, and then there's the middle third, which is the Tiferet. The lower third, which is Yesod, Netzach, and Hod. Netzach is like penetrating into the future, and Hod is like receiving by being open. And so it's like as they take on the life of their own, the Yesod of Ima, which I spoke about, the foundational reproductive or productive like aspect to the mother, thrust to actualize, is no longer felt. So the upper half of Zeir Anpin, which is the hidden world, emotions concealed within the intellect, and the lower half of Zeir Anpin, remember this is the son, not the daughter, revealed world, there the emotions are fully asserting themselves. So Jubilee is associated, Yovel, like every 50 years, it's like because Bina is associated with this partzuf, this countenance of the mother, this like personality or beingness, like a role, because there's 7 cycles of 7. There's 7 of these emotive attributes, including the final one, which contains all, and is often called like the daughter, but not necessarily So the 50 years corresponds to the 50 gates of understanding, which is from the Bina, which is associated, like I said, with like the mother. The Bina is like the understanding, like being able to get the insight, but really like apply it and relate to it. So the sabbatical year, every 7 years, is identified with the lower half of Zeir Anpin, when the Ima is no longer manifest. And in other words, emotions with still having the intellect that started them, versus just anxiety or mania, addiction. Like these are when they take on a life of their own. So what am I saying here? That Jubilee, the 50, is the upper. So every 7 years is like, it's saying the short cycles, and then the bigger cycles of the short cycle, the big cycle of the short cycles, like 7 times or something, is the pattern of it's still being like in the higher realm, the upper part. And all that could be revealed from Ima into Zeir Anpin is its beck. Like the superficial aspects, the intellect in all its own intensity can't shine directly into it. It's into emotions, only a diffused like memory radiance of it, like of the inspiration that gave rise to the emotion, is as a response remains in the consciousness. In other words, in this understanding, this real understanding, what can shine into the emotional elements, or like the traits, the expansion, the contraction, it's like, as said, like a diffuse, like a light that's sort of like a memory of the light flashed into it. The initial inspiration that gave rise to these emotions kind of is still like budding through it. The response remaining in the consciousness when we switch to the emotional mode, even if we're starting to act things out, the initial part is still there. The malchut of Ima, like the daughter, like the inside this, world of Ima, Malchut is the seventh of the attributes, not part of the intellect, of the emotional attributes, is the intellect drive for expression. So Ima is like the associated with Bina, but it's like the mother, and then Malchut is like the royalty, sovereignty, the one that receives everything from it. It's sort of like the lowest, but the most, in a way. It's like an action. Intellectually expresses at the emotional, intellectual level via thoughts, versus the speech, which is being intellect expressing through emotional context of emotions. So you could like be talking through the feelings. You could have very strong feelings, but be talking through them. And like you could be intellectually expressing at the emotional, intelligent level via thought. So for example of that would be the awareness like of what's most needed in the moment, of what needs to come out through thoughts about wanting to feel better, wanting to connect, versus the speech, which is like able to talk through in the emotional context, which is like maybe a very excited speech, a very depressed speech, for example, in a way. So Ima is associated with the name Sag, just putting that out there. And Nukva is Malchut, or De Zeir Anpin, like of Zeir Anpin. Nukva is like the or De Zeir Anpin, like Nukva is like the daughter. So it's like Malchut, but like what we talked about was like Malchut of Ima. Anyway, partzufim are let me go into it for a second, are the metaphysical figure of human likeness to representing, like, we're not really talking about mother, father, son, daughter. So it's representing expansion of a sphera or a group into independent configuration with 10 of its own. Each contains within itself aspects of all the other 10 sphirot. Each aspect further subdivided into 10 again. So each contains within itself 10, and each aspect is divided into 10. So you have 10, and each one has 10, which represents rectification of two flaws built in the world of tohu, which is like the world of chaos, or before the order. So one is immature state of vessels, and two is a lack of interrelationship. And two features of partzufim is that they have fully expanded vessels with interrelations. We just talked about the malchut of Ima is to intellectually express at the emotional level through thoughts, versus with speech, which is being intellectually expressed. So like the excited thoughts, I think I said words earlier. The excited, I just want to correct that. What I was saying was that when there's the depressed thoughts, and it's like maybe even subsequent thoughts kind of that are reacting to it. Arich Anpin is called the long face, by the way, and Zeir Anpin is like the short near face. So in all the partzufs, there's like the idea that Cain is the left arm and Abel is the right arm, or it's like wings in Atzilut where their souls are flying. So these are like side points. They're just interesting. Abba as the father, Chachma, and Ima as the mother, Bina, and Chachma and Bina are the two parents of the intellect, and then the children of them are, the son is Zeir Anpin, the emotive attributes, which is really 6 of them, and then Malchut, which is the daughter, like the 7th one, of the 10 really. But there's, like I said, 3. There's like a crown, the light, and then there's the intellect, and so on. There's a higher strata of reality constantly impinging on the lower strata, affecting them like the soul within the body, thereby infusing every element of creation with an inner force that transcends its own position. So like within the universal hierarchy, this is saying that there's like every element is infused with an inner force transcending its position, like something from above is affecting it, like the way like the soul that's in a body is from a higher strata, but it's affected by the body. So each aspect at 5 levels, 5 soul names match the 5 partzufim. There's something called nefesh, which is body, ruach, spirit, neshama is soul, chaya is life, yechida is oneness, and there's like the arich anpin, which is the long face. There's 5, because we just talked about the 4 partzufim, and then arich anpin I said was like the long face. It's like the ancient one. So masculine, or like let me before I go into the, so arich anpin really is the most ancient, versus Abba and Ima are like the elders. So the masculine water and the feminine waters is kind of the there's like the relationship here, but nukva arousal from below, and their anpen arousal from above. So arich anpen is before even the Abba and Ima, and each aspect of the 5 levels, match the partzufim, and it's completing into 3 sections. So you have 5 times 5, which is 25 cells, technically. So you have nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yechida, and you have arich anpen, chachma, bina, zer anpen, and malchut. And it completes in its 3 sections, which is ibur, yanika, and mochen. Embryo, suckling, and brains. So each aspect of the 5 levels complete in its embryo, in its suckling, and in its brains. This is in the world of action, or in the world of change. I'll stop here. This is really in honor of Rosh Chodesh that I'm doing a longer video today and yesterday. Happy Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, or happy Cancer month. We learn, may we all be blessed, that it's about nurture, healing, home, good food, good touch, comfort, and finding balance, being there for ourselves, and sharing with our loved ones. Thank you for spending this time. Be well. Have a great month.